Hi everybody, in this video we also will continue the discussion of international harmonization. We will continue the discussion of part or of third part. We will discuss the acceptance of international accounting standard or the acceptance of issuing the new standards. We will discuss it from more than one perspective. The acceptance of the standard itself, when we issue them, how do they accept it or how do they issue it. In addition to second perspective, we will discuss the similarity between international standards and UK standards, in addition to the US standards, and we will find how did they develop the international accounting standards. In the last point, we will discuss the acceptance of the world to international accounting standards. Here, when the board or when the committee will issue the standard itself, how do they vote to accept the standard? In order to be published, an exposure draft had to be approved by two-thirds. Two-thirds has to accept the draft before they exposure it. After that, they publish it to discuss by the professionals around the world. Then when they prepare it to the final issue in subsequent standard, the majority of 3/4 has to accept the new issuing of the standards. This is at the first level of accepting the standard itself. First of all, the exposure draft had to be approved by two-thirds majority. Then in subsequent standards, when they issue the final standard, they have the standard has to be accepted by 3/4. We are talking about 75% of the board has to accept the new issuance of the standards. Let us go to the next point, the similarity between the standards. It's so important point. Let us go, or let us see this example. Inventory under US GAAP, still LIFO, last in first out method, is allowed, but with disclosure of first in first out. In the UK, LIFO not allowed, but here in international accounting standard, before 1993, LIFO was allowed, last in first out, or be allowed until 1995. From 1995, look at the improvement of standards. From 1995 until 2004, LIFO allowed with disclosure of first in first out. But from 2005, last in first out is not allowed anymore. This is the point. This point is so important when we discuss the acceptance of the standards. Here, how did we accept it? We will discuss it later on in the coming parts or in the coming video. Yeah, I'm sorry. Let us move forward. Next point that we are going to discuss: how did the world accept the international standard? This is the important point, or the third important point of this video. Right now, okay, the world started to issue or establish International Accounting Standard Committee in 1973, as we discussed before in the previous video. Okay, and they started to issue the standards, as I remember, from 1977 until 2001, and they converted from 2001 to be as International Accounting Standard Board, and they started to issue International Financial Reporting Standards, as we discussed many times. But now the most important point, okay, now the standards is accepted. and already the committee or the board has issued it. And we discussed the similarity between the different countries, because most of the country in the previous used to issue their standards. Now the point, how can we obligate the countries to adopt international standards? First of all, this is the great rule of International Organization of Security Commission. They agreed with the International Accounting Standard Committee to minimize the differences, or sorry, to minimize the options that can be adopted by the International Accounting Standard as much as they can. In previous, we have many options that can we use it, or can we adopt it or apply it in according to the International Accounting Standard Committee. But according to the agreement between International Accounting Standard Committee and International Organization of Security Commission, they agreed to minimize the difference, minimize the options that can be that allowed by the International Accounting Standards, that aim to in future, it was a future, but right now already it has been adopted or executed, when they prepare the harmonization and move to be standardization, they minimize the option that can we adopt. This is the most important point. So as our famous example, we have, for example, when we evaluate inventory, many options such as first in first out, last in first out, weighted average, high in first out, low in first out. We have many options that can we use it, but they minimize it until 1994. We have 3 options only, and right now we are talking about 2 options that we can use to evaluate the our inventory. Sorry. For that, they minimize the option that can we adopt. After that, the International Accounting Standard Committee started to adopt, and they issue many regulations that push the financial market to adopt the International Accounting Standard until 1993 or 1995, let us say, after several years of detailed argument that we discussed a minute ago over the removal of option 10 revised standards. They revised the standard that already issued before 1993. In 1993, they revised 10 standards were agreed in November 1993 to come into force in 1995. After that, the International Accounting Standard Committee made it clear that reduction on option was essential. When the International Accounting Standard Committee adopted it and improved their standards according to this advice, now the International Accounting Standard Committee adopt the the International Organization Security Commission adopted International Accounting Standard, and they started to obligate the financial market to adopt the international standard, and from there they started to accept the international standard. And in 2005, EU adopted international standard, and all the financial market in the EU obligated to, or listed companies at EU markets obligated to adopt international accounting standards. In addition to many countries also right now obligate their listed company at their local or national financial market to adopt international accounting standards. Here also in Palestine, listed company, we are talking about 48 listed company, adopted international financial reporting standard. Right now we call them international accounting reporting standard. Until now I think it's enough. Let us go to the next learning objective in the coming video. See you.